What's up everybody and welcome to the channel. Today we're going to take a look at this 2024 Nissan Ariya. This is the Empower Plus front wheel drive finished in Boulder Gray. MSRP on this particular spec is about $50,000. So let's go ahead, pop the hood and see what is powering this fully electric crossover SUV. So you got the hood latch right here. So as I mentioned, fully electric, so you're going to see all the electric components in here. This has a 178 kilowatt motor with an 87 kilowatt hour battery pack, 238 horsepower with 221 pound-feet of torque. This one's front wheel drive with the single speed reduction gear and range is about 289 miles. You can get more power out of these in higher trim levels and you can get all-wheel drive as well. Moving on to the styling, you have a really sleek set of LED headlights and I like this massive daytime running lights. A pretty cool touch. All your parking sensors throughout the front end, and this grille is pretty unique. You can see the textured plastic behind this smooth design. Then we have an illuminated Nissan badge. You have a functional inlet on this far side to improve efficiency, and a pretty cool design overall. All gloss black trim, LED fog lights, and then an opening to provide cooling to some of the electronics. Definitely a sporty looking car. It's got a unique look to it. A little bit of sharp lines on the hood that fade their way towards the front. And I really like these front and rear fender flares. You can see how it gives it somewhat of a wide body design. You have a very aerodynamic design for these 19-inch wheels. I like the two-tone color, matches the two-tone of the car very well. Side parking sensors, and then you can see your charge port on this side, just opening that up. And you can see a pretty aggressive design for the side skirt, which I like a lot. Blends its way very nicely into the front and rear fenders. Then we have gloss black on the mirror caps with your camera, and then some nice brushed aluminum trim surrounding all the windows. Body color door handles, and then the two-tone roof, panoramic roof up on top with two shark fin antennas. And then the side profile, it's a short and stubby looking crossover, so a little bit different looking. However, I think it is still pretty cool. You have a really large integrated spoiler onto the back of the roof line, and then everything just fades really sharply down into the trunk. You can see the windshield wiper back here, third brake light, and then a very large LED taillight. You get your Nissan name written out in it as well, Empower Plus badge, and then all gloss black trim for that rear diffuser with all of your parking sensors. It's a pretty cool looking car. I think overall it does look nice. Looks very modern, futuristic, and pretty sporty. On the key fob, we can also hold this button and open up the trunk. There is a button underneath the Nissan badge as well. Moving into the cargo area, one thing I really like is the fact that these floor panels are actually removable. So you have hidden space all underneath them, and as you can tell, it's quite a lot. So pretty cool design, the way they've done everything. There's even a cubby on the far right side, as well as the left side. And then overall, this has 22.8 cubic feet of cargo space with the seats up. And then when you fold them down, it goes up to about 59.7. Now from here, we can remove the privacy cover. Pretty easy to do so, and then it's not even that bad of a reach. We can fold down these back seats, and as you can tell, you have a ton more space. So a pretty useful car, very roomy, super practical. And then up on top, we can easily press the button and close the power liftgate. Moving on to the rear seat space, if I grab the door, open it up, you're going to see this leather wrap material all throughout the doors and seats, and then some black contrast. With everything folded down, you can see just how much space you're going to get. And then these are not too hard to go ahead and operate. Now, one thing I like with the Ariya, given it's an electric car, there's no tunnel in the center, so you do have a lot of legroom all on the floor. And then hopping inside, we're going to have heated seats, plugs, as well as air vents, storage on the back side of all these seats. And then taking a look at them, in the center, you do have two cup holders and an armrest. And then if I close the door, it's a pretty decently roomy car at 5'11". I have good legroom and foot room. Headroom's pretty good, about an inch for me. And then it's pretty open in here with all the glass and that panoramic roof. So pretty nice comfort levels and amenities for backseat passengers to make this a pretty useful car. Onto the front seats, you're gonna have all of your typical controls, windows, mirrors, controls, your release handle with memory seating, and then power controls for the seats. You have this cool perforations in the center as well. Nice looking design, very comfortable seats. I like the contours and everything. And then the steering wheel is really cool. It's a 2-spoke, perforated leather, nice little stripe on the bottom. And then hopping inside, foot on the brake, we can fire it up. Cool animation. And then on the screen right here, you have a pretty cool design. You can scroll left and right and see all sorts of different information that's gonna pop up. And then if you tap this right here, you're able to change the view, get yourself a little bit more traditional layout. So pretty nice overall, really can't complain. You have cruise control on the right side, some Bluetooth and audio controls, stalk on the right for windshield wipers, and then of course headlights on the left. Down below, we have interior dimming, auto hold, tailgate release, a few others. You can see this bronze color, which is a nice touch for all the air vents. And then this cool leatherette material kind of blends its way from the doors into the dash. Now, Nissan's newest infotainment, pretty nice to use. I like all these large tiles, makes it pretty easy to operate. Pretty cool design overall. You can see a full screen of all of your climate controls. However, they're also sitting right here, so you can just tap these. It takes a little bit getting used to. You kind of have to make sure you press it in the right spot. I'm not the biggest fan. Kind of hurts your finger just kind of shoving it into the plastic. But nonetheless, you do always have controls right here to make it simple. Then we have other controls, home icon, everything you would expect right in the center. I go ahead and put it into reverse. Got a nice backup camera with top-down view, and then your P button as well. Now, this centerpiece right here, you have storage along with a tray, and then you can close it by just pressing this button. We also have drive modes right here. You can go into the Eco, Standard, and Sport, and then our typical glove box over on the far right side. There is extra storage space underneath right here, and the center console you can move. So I can just press this button, slide it all the way back. Basically just is going to move your armrest out of the way, but it'll make the rear seat passengers have better access to their controls. A few more things down below, and then we can open that up for cup holders, and we have your wireless phone charging. You have a nice light colored headliner with a panoramic roof, all those controls, a sunglass holder, and then an LCD camera with your standard mirror. All right, setting off in the Ariya, full throttle, in sport mode, and there's 55. Not exactly the fastest thing out there. Of course, you can get more power and all-wheel drive. This one being right in the middle of the trim level, this is fine. I mean, it'll get up to speed like any typical person would expect. So I don't have any complaints overall. Of course, just fun factor, I wouldn't mind more power. But this is a pretty nice to drive vehicle. At my height and everything, I fit in it pretty good. I wouldn't mind being able to lower the seat a little bit. I do feel kind of tall in here. However, you do have a really good view around. Mirrors all do a great job. Of course, the camera does a pretty good job as well. However, I kind of like it without the camera sometimes. I'd really just say I'd only use the camera if you have people in the back, because the actual view out is actually really good. Good view out of the front. Of your left and right shoulder, honestly, no big deal. Now, the seat comfort. This is a really comfortable place to be. These seats have a lot of padding to them, good support. The only weird thing, the center armrest is higher up than the door armrest. So my arms feel a little lopsided when I'm resting my arms there. So that's a little interesting to get used to. But the overall driving, it's smooth. Very smooth to drive. You hear just a little wind noise, and that's about all the noise you hear in this car. It's very quiet, very composed feeling. Suspension absorbs bumps really well, and I like this steering input. Even though it's front wheel drive, you don't really get like torque steer or anything, probably because it doesn't have enough power to give you the torque steer, but it's peppy enough, and yet you're not getting that input in the steering wheel when you want to floor it. But it's a nice to drive car, just feels pretty smooth. You can tell there is a little bit of that luxury aspect to this car to where it just rides nice and smooth. There's other cars that are this price point that drive kind of like your generic car. I feel like the Ariya does drive a step above. It feels really nice to be in. The materials you touch are also pretty good. While there's a lot of synthetic materials in this particular spec, they still feel good. My biggest complaint, I would say, these buttons, you kind of have to look at them and touch them. It's a little weird to get used to. You don't really always have to press it. You kind of can just tap it too. So it kind of has a learning curve, I would say, to use the touch sensitive buttons. I wouldn't mind, like I really like the volume dial right here. I wouldn't mind dials for temperature and fan speed. I think there'd be nothing wrong with that. You just, when you have to hit it many times to crank it up, that's when it gets a little annoying of having to tap a lot of times, and you're basically just tapping your finger on hard plastic, which isn't the most comfortable thing. So that's my biggest complaint, even though I like the fact that they are always here. A lot of cars you have to go into the screen to even get there. But I think from a driver's perspective, you know, the Ariya is going to be something very familiar. It's easy to drive. It doesn't feel big. It's just kind of normal to drive, and yet a relaxing place to be at the same time. So this could be your daily. The range is decent. You know, I've only been driving this for a couple days now, and I'm about at 50% on the battery. So I've used quite a lot without really going all too far. Going into a parking lot, you know, turning circle is really nice and tight as well. The brakes work really nicely. Of course, if you do the E step, it'll automatically kind of do the brakes when you come to a slow speed and do the regenerative. So pretty nice to drive vehicle. I think there's definitely something to be said about this car, especially with a $20,000 price gap from 40 to 60 grand, depending on the trim level. So I would say definitely put one of these on your list if you're looking for an electric crossover.